What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Between the 20s. Today, we're bringing you our weekly start-sit show, and today, it's week 15. We're getting ready. We're in full swing in these playoffs, getting down to the end of the season. This is where it all counts. It's all coming down to this. The whole year, all 14 weeks so far, has brought us to this moment right now, and that's why we're here helping you guys in one of these important weeks. Mike, Bryce, how you guys feeling today?
I'm good. I can't believe we're here already. This is unbelievable. I remember the start of the season, we came out with that ranking show at the beginning. Go check it out if you want to see what we got right, what we got wrong. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But it's pretty crazy. It's definitely flown this football season, and I can safely say it's been a weird one.
It's definitely true. Definitely true. I mean, I'm looking forward to a different football game this week. I am wearing my Army jersey today in honor of the Army-Navy game, or in anticipation, I should say, the Army-Navy game on Saturday. Navy, a ranked team going up against the sub-500 Army.
They're going to get smacked.
Maybe bad.
Big smoke.
They're going to get smacked,
Big
Mike.
smoke.
And then on Sunday, we have a winnable game for the Giants as they take on the Dolphins.
It's
at
not
home.
a winnable game.
At home. Favorite.
Yeah.
Favorite New York Giants.
Don't think it's a winnable game.
Big Boo is favored.
Putting my money on the Dolphins.
Mike's going to that game. Maybe he'll take a quick vlog for the channel.
Potentially, if there's interest. Okay, if someone's willing to take me to this log.
Oh man, to this tank bowl. Take two.
But Eli's back at QB. Very exciting for Giants fans. A little send-off here at the end of his career. Potentially, although B argues that he could be a starting quarterback on another team next year.
He could be the bridge guy for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. It could happen.
No.
It could happen.
It doesn't mean it should happen. Eli's should be done. If he won last night's game, he should have retired on top with that plus 500 record, but he lost to the Eagles. So
B, who's the third
too
string
bad.
there?
Where? Cincinnati?
If Eli retired, who's
Alex Tanney. In good hands.
I'm sure you're.
But that's just
heard of him
because they
before.
got rid of the guy from
Geno Smith?
Richmond, University of Richmond.
Laletta.
Well, I like Kyle.
Well, they didn't get rid of him. Didn't he go to prison for DUI?
Jesus.
Oh, no, they released him after that, though. But I felt that he brought some...
And they used to have Davis Webb. I like Davis Webb. He's with the Jets now.
Yeah, he's gone. They said Geno Smith as well, so...
Yeah.
But,
All right, enough garbage talk with these garbage teams: Jets, Giants, Dolphins. We're gonna get into
Jets with another win this week as well.
They beat the Dolphins.
Exactly.
On a last-second field goal.
Hey, they win's a win. W's W, chalk it up, boys.
What do you know about W's, Mike? You're a Giants fan. Anyway, let's get into these questions. We got 4 top-tier questions this week. As usual, we got the top-tier questions here. We're trying to help everyone out here. And so we're just going to kick it off with a 12-team full PPR question. And this is all about running backs. So the first guy is Bo Scarborough for the Lions against Tampa Bay this week. Next guy is James Conner versus Buffalo this week. And then the last guy we have Adrian Peterson versus Philadelphia. Mike, throw it to you.
Surprisingly tough question here. I mean, James Conner is the injury question, but also going up against a tough defense in Buffalo. Last week, Adrian Peterson actually outscored Bo Scarborough thanks to the injured Darius Geis. Let's go to our health expert now. Bryce, what's Darius Geis' status look like for this coming week?
Out?
Definitely out.
Out?
What happened to him?
He has an MCL sprain. I'm sure he'll be out probably for the rest of the season.
All right, so
You
he
want to
is-
talk about a guy that's made of glass? He's like the new Percy Harvin. Just hurt
Sucks, man.
every play. He's got so much potential. I would love for him to stick sometime.
It's tough.
So Adrian Peterson appears to be the lead back on that, given that information. So, but then, and Tampa Bay, Bo Scarborough's opponent, has a very good rushing defense. So this question gets very, very tricky here. And so does Philadelphia, surprisingly. I was
So does
surprised
Buffalo.
to hear this. I think I went over Buffalo already, though. But, yeah, Philadelphia also a tough rushing defense, despite what you may think.
I don't think anyone thinks they're good.
With
Or
that,
they're bad.
I think I'm going to roll with Adrian Peterson, hoping he can bring it back to his Viking days just a little bit, just a glimmer of Adrian Peterson in that Vikings uniform again. That's just because James Conner, you never know with his injury, and obviously Buffalo's a tough matchup either way, and Bo Scarborough is going up against the Bucs, who also have the toughest rushing defense, I think, Elmer, is what we saw today. The toughest rushing defense out there. So, AP's my pick. Locked in.
Yeah, the only one that I'm going to strike from this list immediately is Adrian Peterson.
Oh, man.
The Phillies got a good rush defense. I think the second half of the Monday night game against the Giants inspired them a little bit. I should hope so anyway. They're vying for the division title in the single worst division maybe ever.
think
Seriously,
statistically,
these teams are so
I
bad.
think statistically it is the worst division in the history of the NFL.
All
And the
four of them
Redskins can
are
still.
brutal.
The Redskins are still vying as well.
The Redskins can still do it, but Philly's going to be there. You still have Chris Thompson to contend with for Adrian Peterson. I don't like him here this week at all. Philly is also a phenomenal rush defense, as you mentioned, Mike. Bo Scarborough, obviously, a tough matchup as well. I'm going to ride James Conner. I know it's tough coming off the injury. I understand that he might be splitting carries with Jalen Samuels and Benny Snell as he's getting back into it. But this is going to be probably the matchup between the 5 and 6 seed in the AFC. Don't forget, Pittsburgh is still vying for this playoff spot. They need this win. If James Conner is back, they're going to roll with James Conner, especially against a good playoff team like the Buffalo Bills. So I do foresee him, if he's fully healthy, getting a full workload, and he should be the guy going up against Buffalo for Pittsburgh, so I'm going to take James Conner here. And he's on track to play.
As Mike said, this is kind of a tough question. James Conner coming off that multi-week shoulder injury, and then you got to contend with Adrian Peterson and Bo Scarborough against two of the top 3 rush defenses in the NFL, statistically in terms of yards allowed. So, tough question all around, and this is a good one for the listener that submitted it. But I'm going to have to agree with Bryce on this one. I'm going to roll with James Conner. If he plays, he's on track to play. Looks like he's going to play. And so I'm going to roll with James Conner. I think, like Bryce said, this Steelers offense, they need to win this week. And they've been looking a little bit better with Duck Hodges over Mason Rudolph. And he's...
Quack!
He's supposed to be the... James Conner, that is supposed to be the focal point of this offense. And even if he's on a snap count, I still think he's going to be more effective against the Bills than Adrian Peterson or Bo Scarborough will be against their respective defensive matchups.
Agreed.
I think the Bills' real strength on defense has been in the back-end secondary, and so I think their run defense is a little bit worse, and so I think Pittsburgh's going to try to exploit that by pounding the rock. If James Conner does not play, I'm actually going to roll. I'm going to actually agree with Mike, and I'm going to roll with Adrian Peterson. I think Bo Scarborough has been up and down this season. The Lions also have been up and down. They haven't been too good. And Tampa Bay's had a pretty good run defense, like we said, actually first in the league. So James Conner, if he plays. If not, then I'm rolling with Adrian Peterson. So I guess I'm agreeing with both of you a little bit there. But
he's got his conditional in there, Bryce.
Yeah.
Unconditioned.
I'll do a conditional. My conditional is Bo Scarborough. I thought that was implied when I said I was ruling out Adrian Peterson.
Well, that wasn't implied, but now it's been.
Now I'm explicitly saying if James Conner does not play, which is unlikely, it's unlikely that he won't play, should clarify, I'll go Bo Scarborough.
all right. Sounds like we're ready to move on to our next question. We have a pick 2. You know how we love our pick 2s here between the 20s. We got a 10-team standard league, and we're deciding between DJ Moore against Seattle, Keenan Allen against Minnesota, or DK Metcalf in the other side of that game against Carolina. So, throw it to Bryce, not Mike. Who you got?
This one's tough. DK Metcalf, and this is probably why the question's here. DK Metcalf obviously is the inferior of the 3 of these guys, but has the superior matchup by a wide margin going up against the Carolina Panthers. And this is standard, so we are looking at touchdown upside here, and DK Metcalf probably possesses that more than both of the other guys. That being said, it's going to be very, very hard to not play Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, so I won't. I'll pick both of them.
So this is a good bait and not switch. Bait and keep.
Bait and stay.
Bait and stay question.
DJ Moore has been a machine. He catches, it's standard, but he's gotten double-digit targets all the time. That's going to translate to yards. Ideally, against the Seattle team, they'll be throwing the ball a lot, even if that is Christian McCaffrey getting the ball sometimes, most of the time. But I do like DJ Moore here all the time. And Keenan Allen, I know it's Minnesota. He's still the top target for Phillip Rivers, and it's very, very hard to take that away from your fantasy lineup for a guy that is wide receiver 10 on the year in standard leagues.
Mike?
I agree. I think that pretty much sums it up. I don't think the advantage of playing DK Metcalf this week is that much greater than. It's not greater than playing either one of the other 2 guys who are much more bona fide fantasy options, I would say, even if it is a standard league. So, listener, good bait, but I'm going to stay as well.
Yeah, this question's kind of the opposite of the last one. All 3 of these guys are good options, whereas in the last question, all 3 were kind of questionable to bad options. But that also makes this just as tough as a question as the last one. So I think I'm going to agree and make this sweep with the Between the 20s boys. I'm going to roll with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. I think in most leagues, or actually in almost all leagues, you're in the playoffs. And once you're there, you might even be in the finals. And once you're there, you really can't get cute with your lineup. You got to just stick to your guns, stick to the guys that got you there. And in this case, it's going to be DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Seattle doesn't have a great pass defense, so that doesn't scare you. And although Minnesota's defense is good, I think the Chargers are going to really have to throw to stay in this game. I don't expect them to stay in this game, but they're going to have to throw to keep up with Minnesota's potent offense. So I'm rolling with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. Although DK Metcalf, as I said, good option this week against a terrible Carolina defense. So moving on to our third question, penultimate question of the episode today. We got a 12-team PPR question, full PPR. And this is a flex question, so we're deciding between Deebo Samuel and Mike's guy, Carlos Hyde, the guaranteed touches man. Mike, what do you think?
I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm rolling with Carlos Hyde in this matchup. Deebo is appealing, but there's a potential for some drop-off this week against Atlanta, and Carlos Hyde is Mr. Guaranteed Touches in a flex spot. Guaranteed touches are always good.
I just can't do that. Houston looked inept last week against Denver. Hopefully it changes. Deshaun Watson looked pretty good in the second half, but that's still not Carlos Hyde. Tennessee's also looked really, really good. This is a game for the division, and I think it's going to be a shootout. So I don't think Carlos Hyde's going to get the ball that much. It's going to be more Duke Johnson. Deebo Samuel has an unreal matchup this week. Atlanta sucks. Atlanta's brutal. And Deebo Samuel's the top target, other than George Kittle, top wide receiver target. I think he's greater than Emmanuel Sanders right now, anyway, for Jimmy Garoppolo. And you're talking about
hotter on that side of the room.
And you're talking about a team.
Spicy takes.
You're talking about a team that they're 11-2. They're 11-2, and they still have to win because Seattle's breathing down their necks.
Yep.
So I think they're going to throw. This might be a shootout too. I like Deebo Samuel. He's getting decent touches, and he seems to find the end zone every week.
Yeah, this is a tough question because Deebo Samuel really is a big play guy. He needs those big strikes to really make his fantasy week, whereas Carlos Hyde can just ground and pound, get 15 to 20 carries each week, and have a solid day.
Yes, he can.
But I think the matchups is what breaks it up here, and of course the Atlanta defense has been brutal this year. Tennessee, as always, it feels like every season they're low-key good, and this season is no exception. Especially on the defensive side of the ball, Tennessee has been a sleeper there, especially against the run. So I like Deebo Samuel against Atlanta this week. I don't agree when you say that he's the second option. He's in front of Emmanuel Sanders. I don't think so. If you saw what Emmanuel Sanders did last week against New Orleans, you'd see why. But I think that Deebo Samuel is still a great pick. Third wide receiver option against a pretty garbage Atlanta defense. So I'm going to roll with Deebo Samuel. He's definitely come on strong late in the season. So he's my guy. Carlos Hyde's kind of been losing it a bit past couple of weeks.
The other thing about Deebo is that for wide receiver, he actually does have a bit of a rushing floor. Kyle Shanahan, we know, is that very inventive offensive playbook. Emmanuel Sanders threw a touchdown to Raheem Mostert last week, which was awesome.
Yep.
But Deebo Samuel's running jet sweeps, a lot of stuff because he's crazy, crazy fast. So he gets used all the time. He's good for 30, 40 yards on the ground.
I think it's a little hard to sell him on the rushing floor, but
Yeah, I agree.
He's got a greater rushing floor than most wide receivers do.
I mean, infinitesimally better, but if you want to count those extra, 5 yards he might get on the ground, sure. You can say the same thing about George Kittle over other tight ends as well, but that's not why he's number one. Anyway, moving into the last question of the day, last question of this Week 15 start sit. We're going with a 10-team standard, back to 10-team, and we got a standard league. This is the running backs question. We got David Montgomery against the Green Bay Packers, or Devontae Freeman, who we talked about, who's Atlanta Falcons, we just talked about against the San Francisco 49ers. So, what do you got?
This to me is all matchup dependent. Devontae Freeman is obviously the more seasoned and better running back at the moment than David Montgomery, but he's playing San Francisco, and I just can't do that. David Montgomery has the enviable matchup going up against the Green Bay Packers, 26th against the run in fantasy in standard. David Montgomery is going to be a solid option. He should get the ball a lot. And frankly, I really do hope that Matt Nagy's figured it out. Because last week against Dallas, he rumbled on the ground for 86 yards. Yes, he did fumble, but when he touches the ball like that and does gain 86 yards and Matt Nagy's committed to the run, they win. They beat Dallas.
I mean, it was Dallas.
It's still Dallas, but
rumble.
But still, Montgomery looked pretty good outside of the fumble, and I do expect that to continue against Green Bay. Not to mention, The weather in Chicago is going to be brutal, and it's going to favor itself to the run.
Yes, sir. We know about that.
I like the weather argument. Is it supposed to snow though?
I don't think it's supposed to snow, but it's going to be bare weather, like 8 degrees. If you know anything about being in 8-degree weather, you can't grip a football very well to throw it.
Hang on, what's the forecast?
It's not 8 degrees. That's
25 might be with wind chill.
It's going to be cold.
Low of 22.
It's going to be cold.
I'm going to go
It's going to snow the day before, so it could be sloppy conditions at Soldier, which is a grass field.
just out of principle.
15
I'm going
mile
to
an
go.
hour winds.
I'm going away from David Montgomery, and I'm
On principle,
going with-
that's how you should make all your fantasy decisions.
Devontae Freeman. I think that he's going up against the 49ers. Yes, tough matchup, but I think that the Falcons are going to have to get a little bit creative in trying to sort of make things happen here, and creativity starts with a good run game. So they're going to try to establish the run early with Devontae Freeman.
So keep going.
Okay?
Keep going.
Okay,
Keep going.
I think
Finish your piece so Amr can tear it apart.
they're going to have to establish the run with Devontae Freeman, or else they have no shot at winning this game. You got to get the play action going. Got to get the defense biting. Tough defense, tough matchup, but I think that he's going to be a very pivotal part of the offense this week, so I'm going with him.
Tough defense,
Yeah,
otherwise
just
known
a
as
tough
number
defense,
one.
Number one in the NFL.
Number one.
Okay.
Do it
I'm
to him.
gonna. So, you said that Devontae Freeman, that the Falcons need to establish the run to have a chance to win. They don't have a chance to win. They could establish the run. They could rush for 200 yards. They're still not gonna win. San Francisco's too good. Atlanta's been too bad this season. And so I think they're gonna get. I think that Atlanta's gonna get down big, like huge. They're gonna get down like 20, 30 points to San Francisco, and
I
At
don't know.
that
They
point-
took down the Saints, remember? This
That was an
Falcons team.
aberration. An aberration. So
Yeah,
did the 49ers. That game was
49ers were
awesome.
bad.
As
Yeah,
B
the game
loves
was
to
awesome.
say, a broken clock is right twice a day.
divisional matchups just
Did I say
hit
that?
different, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm my dad. Wow.
Mike, divisional matchups just hit different. You saw what happened earlier this season with the Browns and the Ravens. The Browns somehow beat the Ravens, who are now 11-2. So divisional matchups, things happen. So you can't really count that in favor of Atlanta. So as you probably noticed, I'm going to roll with David Montgomery against the Packers. This is at home, as Bryce said. It's in Soldier Field, and so yeah, I mean he's going to get some sort of touches. I don't know if we can say the same about Devontae Freeman. This is tough because David Montgomery's been so brutal this season, but I think you got to roll with him over Devontae Freeman. If anything, just because of this matchup. San Francisco's just too good.
A lot at stake this week. I disagree with you guys on three of the four, I think. Oh, boy.
What else is new?
Oh, boy.
All right, anything to add?
I think we covered it.
It's all good. Have a good week 15 out there, folks.
Yeah.
Best
Enjoy
of
the
luck to you in your
playoffs.
All the
fantasy
marbles. Have fun in those playoffs. Get the win. Check us out. Check out some other videos we got. We got a bunch of debate videos coming out. They can get pretty heated, so much more heated than these start-sit shows. And they'll be a lot of fun. So check those out. Drop a like, subscribe. Would be really appreciated. Drop us a comment. Check us out at these links on Instagram and Twitter. And that's it. That starts it week 15 from Between the 20s.